All right. There we go. We are here again in La Divinidad en me, which is the divine in me. And this is perfect because we have Lisa Jones with us. She did have an awakening in 2004, and that helped her to connect with her divine wisdom, and then be connected with the love and light. I think they're beings, right? And also, she is a intuition educator. She is a channeler of love and light. She also assists others to develop their intuition through mentorship and education and divine wisdom. Thank you so much for being here. And Diana also will say aloha to you.
Aloha, Lisa. Thank you so much for being here, for being you. We really appreciate that you are sharing your story. Cannot wait to have our Spanish audience with the subtitles receiving that message directly from you. So we are so excited to be here today with you. Thank you.
Thank you both so much for having me. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. I guess I'll just start with my awakening the night. It was February 22nd, 2004. And wow, I can already feel the emotion starting to rise in me. Whenever I think of this awakening, I can just be right in that energy, which is pure, unconditional love. And yeah, it was such an amazing experience. So my husband, Ian, had been sick for 7 years with cancer, and it had been a long journey. That week, just before he passed away, the doctors had said there was nothing more to be done. So that was on a Wednesday. And then on Friday, he woke up. It was the first time he was incoherent and not able to get out of bed and things like that. So I called hospice, and they came on Saturday. And also his brother drove down from where he lived in New Hampshire down to Connecticut, where I lived. And his best friend flew in from Seattle, Washington. So it was the first time I wasn't alone with him. And my children at that point were 8 and 10. They were 1 and 3 when he was diagnosed, and 8 and 10 when he passed away. And they had gone out of the house that night. My son went to his grandmother's, and my daughter went to her best friend's. The hospice people told us that most likely he would pass within the next 2 weeks. He actually looked quite he still was very strong, and it would take a couple weeks for him to really transition because he wasn't showing any signs of that. So I went into my daughter's room and laid down, and at that point I had been connecting with angels, and that's a whole nother story, but I just prayed to the angels and prayed to God and just said, please help us. There's no way out at this point. I don't know if I can handle 2 more weeks with him being so disabled and, not being able to get out of bed and incontinent and everything like that. And so I just begged for mercy, basically. And then the next thing I know, and I must have obviously fallen asleep, but the next thing is that 2 angels showed up, and it was like they just offered me a hand. And again, like I said, the emotion just overtakes me because it was just so beautiful. I was in a field, a rolling field, and it was just the most beautiful field I've ever been in. I can't express what it looked like exactly because the colors are beyond anything that we have here, but it just was pure love, pure friendliness. I think that was one of the biggest things, is it was so clean and just so just precious. And then off in the distance, I saw almost like a castle. And again, for lack of a better word, just was this big, beautiful building that looked very grand. And then there were kind of rolling, and there were no cars or anything. But the next thing I know, we were inside this building, and we had gone kind of through a hallway, and I could hear angels singing. I could hear trumpets blowing. And then there was this announcement: the Grand Mr. Ian Sharp is about to arrive. And as I was hearing that announcement, we were walking down this hallway, and at the end of the hallway was this beautiful balcony. And so I was standing at the top of the balcony looking down, kind of like a big courtyard. And in the courtyard, all of these spirits were coming and gathering, and this announcement, the Grand Mr. Ian Sharp is about to arrive. And everybody was so excited, and oh, he's coming, he's coming home. This is so exciting. And you could just feel the buildup of excitement of all of this soul family that were there. And as I said, there were angels singing, and then there was a giant door that just started to open. And just at that moment, I could see like his foot coming through. I didn't see his whole body, just his foot. But everybody in the courtyard, as the door started to open, they all turned, he's here, he's here. And as they were rushing toward him to welcome him home, there was a knock on my daughter's door, and it was my brother-in-law. And he burst into the room. And right at that simultaneous moment that Ian was walking in, the door was being knocked on. It was being opened. There was a trap door where I was on that balcony, where my soul just went back and just landed. I felt it like go back into my body. And I jumped physically out of my daughter's bed onto, the floor. And I was beaming with happiness. And yet at that moment, I knew that was an inappropriate to have just been told that my husband had taken his last breath from his brother. And so I ran down to our bedroom, and there his body laid, on our bed. And of course, it was so surreal because he wasn't there. I mean, his body was there, but I could tell that his soul had gone. Like, to me, just an empty shell. And in my mind, I was still trying to understand what had happened and, everything that had just transpired. And I didn't say anything to either his brother or his best friend, because it was just, I was still trying to understand him. I then downstairs, and we had to call the funeral home, and they came and they took his body and everything like that. And so then later in the morning, maybe 6 a.m., because that was probably about 3 a.m., I had taken a shower. I needed to go tell my children that their father had died, because again, that was not what we were expecting that evening. And so as I was blow drying my hair, I had closed my eyes and I just had the blow dryer. And then all of the sudden, Ian's voice was right. I mean, it almost felt like his hot breath was on my neck. And he said, "Oh my God, Lisa, I love you so much. But it is so awesome here." And I almost dropped the blow dryer because I was just so stunned, because that was confirmation to me that it was actually, that's what happened. And yeah, that was the whole experience. And then since then, he's been talking to me ever since. It'll be 22 years uh, in 2026. So it's pretty astounding to me that I call him my heavenly husband. And I just have so many stories of how he's helped me throughout my life, as well as my children. My children are now 30 and 32, which is, again, unbelievable to me how much time has passed.
So he really makes sure that you will be comfort, you will
Yes.
be like taken care of, not living in fear, not living on sadness so deep, but knowing, because I think with everything that happens with you, with your husband, he really want to take care of you after
Yes.
that. That's what I feel.
Yes.
Reading that are your stories.
Yes. Absolutely.
And how do you feel about what you message for me, like for you, like telling everyone around that's watching right now that probably are about to leave some, a friend or a family that is leaving this earth, going back home. I always say going back home. I never say die. I don't say goodbye or we lost. I don't believe in those words. I believe they're leaving to go back home. What are some messages that you can give to them that probably didn't, or some of them that didn't have that dream or didn't have that goodbye from those beloved ones? What do you tell? What would you message them?
Natalia, absolutely. I agree. Going home, that's what it was. It was a homecoming. And to be able to witness from the inside Ian coming home was just such a gift to me. And it shattered my belief system was raised very religiously. I was raised in the Lutheran church, and I was taught that if you weren't baptized, you'd go to hell, and that, if you were, you'd be welcome into the kingdom of heaven. So one of the biggest difficulties for me was that Ian was not baptized. So I truly thought he was going to hell. So part of this message that I have for people is that there is no hell, at least from my experience. Again, I'm not here to convince anybody. I'm just sharing from my experience. But I know for a fact that he was not baptized and that I saw him being welcomed kingdom of heaven. And again, for me, that's what I think it is. Of course, I've interviewed over 100 near-death experiencers, and they have whatever experience that they believe is true for them, and so if they're Buddhist, they have more of a Buddhist. I love that the universe is so expansive that it gives you whatever you're connected to, so that you have that peace, you have that knowing within you that your beliefs match up with what you're given. And so for those people that are losing a loved one, or again, not losing, but just transitioning, witnessing a loved one transition, I would just say that it is such a gift and such an opportunity to develop a relationship with them, that once they transition and they go home, that you can still interact with them. You can still have conversations, can still feel their presence. The signs that I get from Ian are beyond, I mean, they're just crazy, amazing, And so I think the more open you are to receiving, the more that they come, to you, and it gives you that peace and that grace. And I'm not trying to say, yes, we have to grieve. It's so sad for our physical bodies and our mental and our emotional bodies when we lose a physical loved one on this planet Earth to going home, because our nervous systems are intertwined with our loved ones. And in fact, it's so funny. I'm listening to a book right now about relationships, and how, we all think that we're these independent individual people, but no, they're proving that we are so intertwined with one another. What you feel, I feel, and what I feel, you feel. And so that's why when we lose, or when a person goes home, so much grief and so much pain, physical, is that physical aspect, emotional, spiritual aspect of them not being on the planet. Like I said, I saw my husband's body as a shell. It wasn't an interactive, his being was no longer interacting through that. So I lost that, and I have to grieve that. However, once you are able to, get right with that and know that they're there just in another frequency, and be able to talk to them and interact with them. And again, some of the biggest blessings I've had came from Ian. He's not here on this planet Earth, but he guides me and leads me and shows me just some of the most amazing experiences.
Lisa, I mean, like, one question that I have is, like, when he was close to go home, because of course he was dealing with cancer. So did you have conversations about how he felt about going home? My question directly is, was he afraid or scared about it, like also like you about baptisms, or just scared about what's gonna happen next, like his feeling about it?
Great question, Diana. And what's so funny is he did not want to talk about it. In fact, 2 years before he passed away, that's when things really got bad. He needed 2 more stem cell transplants. And I mean, and I just, as soon as I was told that he'd have to do that again, I knew it was almost like spirit said he's going to die. And I just didn't know when. And so I was preparing myself, I was gearing myself up for his transition, but he would not accept that. I mean, even within maybe 5 weeks of his death, he said, maybe we should talk about, like a 3-month plan, like what you want to do, maybe make some videos for the children or write letters. And he just looked at me like, what are you talking about? We can make a 5-year plan if you want, but what are you talking about? 3-month plan?
Like, that's not gonna happen.
No, exactly. He refused. He was in denial. He was literally in denial until I think that Wednesday that the doctor said, there's nothing more we can do. I think he could finally understand that there was no hope. And it's heartbreaking, right? I mean, he was 44 when he died, and his children were so young. And I know that he was doing everything he could to stay on planet Earth. That was just not in the cards. And now I've come to believe that we all have our own experiences that we've agreed to before we even arrive here. That he and I had this contract, and that I agreed that I would be widowed and he would leave. All of these things. So the one thing that I thought was so fascinating, though, and really affected me, is that week before he passed away, he said, "Wow, I so regret my life's choice of being an attorney, because all I ended up doing was moving numbers around on pieces of papers for a big corporation." Really wanted to be a doctor, but his dad really wanted him to be an attorney. I wished, I had been more hands-on with people and helped more people. That really affected me in that moment. I mean, it broke my heart to think that he lived a life that he wasn't, like, not that he wasn't proud of the work he did, but, that he wished he had done something else with his life. And I was 7 years younger than him. So as I approached my 44th birthday, I had gone back to work. I was a former certified public accountant, and I'd gone to work for a hedge fund. And as I'm approaching my 44th birthday, I'm like, oh, good Lord, all I'm doing is moving numbers around on pieces of paper. And how dare I live one day longer than my husband and not start helping more people? And so that's when Spirit was really talking to me. And as I said, right after he had been diagnosed, somebody asked if I had been talking to my angels about the situation. And I thought she was crazy. She was actually giving me a massage. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, stop touching me and let me out of the room. But then she started telling me how her angels help her get parking spots. And then I was really interested in parking spots at that point, because I had a 1 and a 3-year-old, and it was very difficult, with children that age to maneuver out of a car. So I started asking the angels for parking spots, and I started getting them. Really, that was kind of the beginning of my communicating with angels. So anyway, I know I was going somewhere, but I've forgotten where I was going with that story. But anyway, yeah, it's just been a fascinating. Oh yeah, let me get back to it. It was about me. Uh, as I approached my 44th birthday, I thought I need to help more people. So I had been channeling angels just for friends and family. I mean, it was very secretive. As a certified public accountant, this was not something that I thought, I mean, I was in finance. I mean, I was in the business world. It wasn't something I told many people, but I did quit the hedge fund. And then just magically, the next thing I know, I was offered to do a stage show in front of 150 people, where I was channeling angels and passed away loved ones. And then the following year, 500 people came, and then I was doing a radio show with over 2 million people listening. And so, yeah, it just really escalated.
When you receive messages from your uh, light and love guidance, you said there
Yes.
are angels, there is also David, but it's also others that can come through. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And those messages are like for a specific person, or it can be also for the humanity?
Absolutely. So what they told me to call them were the beings of love and light. For the longest time, I asked them for their name. I wanted a name like Abraham or, Bashar, like, we know these amazing channelers. And for a long time, they would not even give me a name. They said human beings are so tied into uh, labels, and that as soon as we give you a label, then you're going to start making things up about what that means. So they kind of played a trick on me and told me that I could call them the beings of love and light, which again, being from the corporate world and being, like, I just thought that was the most hokiest, craziest name. And I wouldn't tell people that that's what they would tell me to call them, because, um, I was judgmental in my own way about spirituality. And I thought, channeled and all that were weird, and, wore turbans, and, it was outside my comfort zone. So anyway, I just think it's funny that they gave me that title and that name for them because it just, it made me uncomfortable, right? But over the years, I've realized that it's they've explained that it's a consortium of beings of love and light that want the highest and best for all who hear their message. And so, yes, the messages can be for, across the board, like Bashar or Abraham, or if I'm working with people individually, obviously that those messages are specifically individual for them. And then also sometimes if I'm channeling, if I do a session with somebody, then their passed away loved ones may come through with messages and things like that, or angels or ascended beings. Yeah, it's all very unknown to me what's going to happen, which has also been part of the task of just surrendering and let whatever unfolds unfold.
Right. And if you feel comfortable doing a small channel for the humanity, it would be great.
Yeah.
If you feel comfortable doing it today, for us, with everyone, especially for this new. For me, it's not New Year's. For me, New Year's to start in April.
Okay.
2026 is start in April, the
Mhm.
beginning of April. But there's so many ways because the Chinese says it's in January 21st. The Equator, something like that, is in April 1st, and then other ones said another one. So I was like, okay, whatever. But just to see if we can have a little bit of a message for the year of 2026 would be great if you
Yes.
feel comfortable.
Okay, that sounds good. It'll take me a minute to kind of get into my channel, but if you're willing to allow me to
Yeah.
do that, is that okay? Is this a good time?
Yes, if you feel
Yeah, let's do
comfortable.
it.
Okay. So I'll kind of walk you through what I do to get there. And so part of it is, I do close my eyes and I just call on Archangel Michael to always stand behind me and to bring his blue energy just to protect and surround me. And I call in Archangel Raphael to allow all the messages that come through to be of the highest healing for everyone who hears this message. Ariel to the left of me, asking that this be for the highest and greatest good for everyone's path that might hear this message. And then Archangel Metatron in the front, who wraps a platinum net around each and every person hearing this message, again, to help protect and surround them with the infinite light of the universe. I ground myself. And so I'll bring a light from the sun down through the top of my head, all the way down through each of the chakras, allowing my body to feel this beautiful golden uh, energy. It's kind of like liquid golden honey, just coming all the way through, filtering through every soul, every cell in my body. And again, as you're listening to what I'm doing for myself, you can imagine doing it for you. And so just kind of purifying your entire physical being and then allowing it to go all the way down to my root chakra, down to the tips of my toes, and then allowing beautiful uh, green like roots to grow down all the way through the different layers of the Earth's surface, all the way to the very center of the planet Earth and wrap around there, and then sending up beautiful, loving energy from the Earth's source, from the center of the earth all the way back up through the heels of my feet, through the root of my chakra system, and then just grounding me here with this beautiful, I'm getting this beautiful um, yellow energy that's just going to filter up through every cell in my body, all the way to the tip top of my head. So I'm a mixture of this universal love and light as well as the earth. So I'm just this conduit of light and love right now. And then I'm going to call on the beings of love and light to be here and to bring through their message for all of humanity, whoever listens to this at this time. I do call on my ancestors, my lineage, my passed away loved ones, my higher being, and any and all ascended masters who would like to attend at this moment. I see Buddha and Krishna, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, and Jesus. And if there's anyone else. Excellent. Okay, so I think we are ready. So now it'll just take me a moment as I ask my higher self my bodily self to step to the side to allow this message to come through. And what will happen is generally they will come forward with the message, and then if you too would like to ask questions, you're welcome to do so at that time too. Does that sound okay?
Perfect.
Okay. Yes, hello and welcome, Natalia and Diana. Thank you so much for having us here today on this beautiful channel that you're sharing for all of humanity at this time. And we just want you to know, first and foremost, how loved you are and how this universe is expanding at every moment in every second. And you are part of that expansion. You are expanding the minds and the souls of all that listen to you. We are here to grant you peace, wellness, and healing, and to know that this is available to you at all times, everywhere. And that even when you're feeling despair or maybe you're not feeling well, maybe there's an illness, know that this is almost like a cloud in front of the sun. This is just a momentary experience that you're having in your life, and that the sun is always shining, and that it's always a time of darkness when you go into those fields um of not feeling enough or not feeling well, or feeling maybe like there's somebody that has another human being that maybe has hurt your feelings or that you're not getting along with. Ultimately, your true essence in your soul is that you are the one with all, and that you have all the perfect beingness within you, and that these are all just it's almost like plays playing out simultaneously everywhere at all times, so that you can have a better understanding of what oneness can look like from another viewpoint. But ultimately, you are the one, you are the essence of the one, you have everything you need within. And so all of it is all an illusion, whether it's an illness or this um, feeling of unworthiness, or this feeling of other people not, being on your side, or whatever it is. These are all just experiences for you, the oneness, to have an expression or an experience of what it is like to be the other. Because ultimately, this is all a paradox here on planet Earth. It's all this idea of wanting to come to this planet Earth to feel what love is not, because ultimately you are love. There is nothing beyond the love that you are, for choosing to be here on this planet Earth at this time, and experience the otherness of what is happening. And so right now on planet Earth, there are many things, many things shifting and swirling and changing. And part of that is because so much more light is coming into this planet, that the darkness is also rising. And so knowing this fact, knowing that the more darkness you see is absolutely the equal and opposite side of that, which is more light. And so as things continue to look darkest before the dawn, know that that dawn is still there. It is still upon you. It is just being, shall we say, uh, blotted out by the clouds or by the darkness that you, but ultimately is pure essence of love. And that's what we are all here on planet Earth returning back to. We hope that you find this helpful and settling at this time, as this more light is coming into the world. It is okay. Everything is happening, and ultimately, once you do go home, you will look back at this time and be in awe of what you were able to witness, because this is a really amazing time to be alive on planet Earth, and it is with great blessings that we share this with you.
What is the work that all of us we have to do to help on all these changes? Because a lot of people, I think they have that question, like how we can help on all this process.
the first and best thing that everyone can do is come back into yourself and to love yourself. If there's places within you that you feel as though you are not the wholeness that you know ultimately that your soul is, it's about caring for yourself and 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 finding a way to love yourself fully. There's so many experiences that we all endure as children on this planet Earth that break us and hurt us and make us feel less than. And again, that's that the opposite of love. So it's always coming back and allowing yourself to be whole. So if each and every individual person on this planet Earth is able to self-love, to reparent themselves and bring them back to wholeness, then that is the first and foremost of being able to um, be of help to others. Because again, each and every person is in of itself the perfect love and oneness that there is. So if each one of you are your perfect selves, then the whole will be perfect. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
And thank you for being here, love and light with us. I have a questions about if this is an illusion, if this is not real, let's say, why is so important? Why do we have to go through if it's an illusion?
A wonderful question, which many people ask once they've come down and forgotten the reason why they came in the first place. And that is because when you are the pure essence of love, when you go home, there are times that you wonder, what is it like not to be this oneness of pure love? And you want to experience the otherness. You want to experience what love is not. And one of the few places in the universe that this can happen is on planet Earth. And so there's nothing that no. Again, it's a very difficult concept for people to understand that there is no right or wrong. They're just different experiences. And again, people can go to just awful, tragic experiences, but that's where this is all an illusion. And people choose to have, and again, this is difficult for people to understand. Please don't feel that we are trying to shame any victims or people that tragic things have happened. It's not about that. It's about looking at it from a higher perspective, which is that you as an individual are the perfect oneness and wholeness of love. And so there's nothing that could ever happen to you, even though it does happen in the physical body. It's almost like that's the 3D version of you versus, this 5D perfect loving version of you. So again, that is where it is the play. That is where it is the illusion that you are not actually what is happening to you. You're just observing an aspect of what love is not when something tragic is happening. And so again, the reason that people come to planet Earth, and there are lines, there are people lining up to come to experience this, what love is not, because they live in such beautiful, perfect bliss all the time. It's shall we say, it's an opportunity to come and experience a whole new feeling within your soul's expression. I mean, it's almost like, why do people go and ride roller coasters, right? Because that's very terrifying to some people. There's that whole thrill of going up, 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 and then as you go over the top and down, there's that just absolute, terror and fear that people want to feel. So imagine that is exactly what was chosen when you decided to come to planet Earth, was you wanted to go to the amusement park and to try all the different rides and see what it feels like to have these elevated feelings within a physical body. That's the other thing about coming to planet Earth, is you have these physical vehicles which you're able to interact and connect and make love with other human beings on this planet Earth, which is a whole different experience than when you are in the oneness, which is an absolutely beyond expression of feeling. When Lisa was on, for example, in her experience of heaven, she experienced the oneness of unconditional love, which there is nothing better, because you can't even experience that here on planet Earth. You don't get the opportunity to experience. Usually there are some times that does have, people do have moments of that experience, but it's nothing like what it really feels like when you're back in the oneness of the of the whole. So again, a long answer to a very great question.
Thank you, Lisa. When you say that there is nothing good and wrong, and people good or bad, I mean, like just for the people that are crossing by difficult times and they can see that, let's say, someone is hurting them, I mean, like how we can see those people that, as you say, those are not bad people, have, how we can understand that, how we can deal with those things, like you take apart that person, or, I mean, like what is the practical way to deal with those situations?
Yes, wonderful question. And again, we do not mean to make light of any difficult situations,
Uh-huh.
because it's not, again, when we say there is no good or bad, obviously in the physical realm, it feels like there is good and bad. There's bad feelings. If somebody, for example, physically beating you, that is considered a bad experience. It feels bad. And yet, if you're able to zoom out, and again, we understand this is not possible when you're in the moment of the situation. But from a spiritual standpoint, when you're looking at a situation where somebody is beating another human being, that is an experience that two physical beings are having. And yet on the spiritual level, that is not happening. That is not what's actually, one soul is not hitting another soul over the head with a stick or something like that. Their soul is having a feeling of what it feels like to feel what love is not. And that was what they came to experience in this lifetime, in that specific example, so that they could better understand what love is. So from a practical standpoint, again, this is from the spiritual standpoint, the higher levels. When you are actually in that physical aspect of potentially being beaten by another human being, you need to take care of whatever you need to do to get out of that situation. But this is also where, for example, maybe an abused woman, and again, Lisa can speak from this. She was hit by a boyfriend in high school or in college, and had a skull fracture. So in that experience, Lisa had to decide, was she going to stay with this man who physically beat her, or is she going to make a different decision and take whatever means is necessary in order to separate herself from this man and leave his presence and not be a part of his life, which is what she chose. And so this is where, again, it's easy to say there's no good or bad from that spiritual perspective, but in the physical, it's a whole different thing. It's the 3D versus the 5D. So do you understand that clarification?
And I do have a question too,
Yes.
Lisa. Last things I was confused. At that. Um, so, for example, person who is going through, I want to talk a little bit of forgiveness. Some people are so deep into their own suffering and they live in the past all the time. So that is called depression, right? It's depressing something from the past. How would you, what advice would you give to those people to be able to release themselves from there and able to move on, um, with more love and light, but also, oh, I'm sorry. The question went off. Okay, that will be one of the questions. There was another one attached, but I left. I'm sorry.
Well, if it comes back, of course, by all means, please ask. Yes. So this is, again, one of these experiences in the 3D world where people can get really caught in past experiences and in a depression, and where their mind gets stuck into an experience, quote unquote, bad experience, where then they just are looping and very difficult for that to come out. And again, our message is not one of victimizing the victim. I mean, obviously, if something happened like that and they're in this situation, and also there are, again, experiences where the chemical brain is not 100% working properly. And so these, again, are all human experiences. It's not from the soul level. The soul is having exactly the experience that it signed up for to come down here to experience. And it's in order to be able to see what love is not. So for the depressed person, they are wanting to see what it's like to live in a physical body that is stuck in this pattern of depression, because there's something that they're getting out of that. There's something that their soul had not experienced that in the past. And so in this lifetime, that is what they've chosen to do. And again, there's lots of different opportunities to potentially change that if the person's so. And there's therapy, different types of pharmaceutical drugs, different types of natural remedies for things like that as well. And so it's just a matter of what does that soul want to experience in this lifetime, and how do they want to go about doing it. And again, sometimes people just choose to stay in that depressed mode. And again, it's not a conscious choice, right? And I think that's where people get a little caught up in what or why do people, continue to do things, because it is not a conscious choice that they're wanting to be depressed. It can come from so many different factors, but the bottom line factor is that that's what their soul came here to experience in this lifetime.
Thank you. I remember now the following question. Sorry, I have
No,
other
no, no, go
questions
ahead.
too.
Yes.
When a person, let's say a person goes through all that and then is able to, for me, it's like going away from the light and the dark and then learn to go back to the light. So that means that when they learn to come back to the light, that means that soul is growing, even their light is even bigger, is even higher. Is that what it happens to our being? I would say being, because we are so many things. We are soul, spirit. Is that what happened?
Beautiful. Again, we would not say necessarily that your soul would grow and become brighter. It's because your soul is perfect as it is. There's nothing that needs to grow or be elevated in any way. However, as the human being that soul is in, absolutely can have, an awakening, or have a better understanding, or have a better, you know, again, they've gone into the darkness, the human being, the ego, the physicality of this person. I mean, the same with illness, you go and you're sick, and then you come back to health again. And so that is where it's much more about the soul wanting to have this experience, yet it's the human physicality of actually going through that gets to have the brightness, that gets to have the light expanding within their physical being, and a better perception or understanding of. Again, it's so difficult for human beings to connect to the perfectness and the expanded version of who they are, because that's just not what, when you come to planet Earth, you have to you sign a contract, to forget all of that. What would be the point then? You might as well just stay in the universe where everything is perfect and love and light all the time. But in order to come here, you've had to give up that knowledge. And so that's part of it, is just kind of like, oh, wait, I've found another piece of that knowledge. And I have a better understanding of who my soul is and how expanded I can potentially become. And so that's where the expansion comes within the physical human experience on planet Earth, if that makes sense.
So one question about what is coming is like as you say, we have to work in ourselves. But at the same time, doing that, also you say that we should feel happy and proud to be living at this moment. What is the kind of things, because things are changing as you're saying, there are more light and over the darkness. Which are the things that we can expect more or less to see in the coming, not necessarily days or years? What we expect to see with those changes that are happening in our.
Yes. Well, first and foremost, it's like what we were just discussing, is that, when you've gone through a dark period in your life, and then maybe you do some study, or you have an awakening like Lisa did. I mean, she had a very different experience prior to her leaving her body and going and feeling that unconditional love and coming back and now sharing with others how to, one, not be afraid of death, like she's here to be an ambassador that life goes on, and to allow people to not grieve or to be as in much pain over grief, because they're not leaving, they're still here. So again, for example, just using Lisa as the like what you said about things, darkness happening right now, and how can people forward in that, and it's really coming back to healing yourself first and foremost. And there's so many modalities, there's all sorts of different things. There's no one right and there's no one wrong way to do it. But if you're interested in learning more about yourself, learning more about spirituality, learning more about the light and the love that is available to everyone, it's just a matter of spending your time doing that, and recognizing that as things are happening right now on this planet Earth, again, it appears that there's all this darkness all around. It's always been there, but two, it's just being more seen because there is more light, and also the way that the planet is now global. It's such a global planet as far as getting information out. So now you're hearing about things that are happening on the other side of the world that normally in the past you wouldn't have heard of. Things are happening all the time everywhere, and people are much more aware of it happening all the time. So that is part of we'll say, the illusion that there is more craziness going on than there ever was before. But it's also really just that there's more awareness of it. It always was happening, but there's just more awareness of it now because people have cameras and people have the internet, and it's all happening all the time. However, in order to come back to what can people do now, it's all about, again, finding that self-love, with being the most loving, kind person that you're here to be, if that is what you've chosen to come here and do. Unfortunately, some people have chosen to come here and want to feel what it's like to be all powerful, or to be, again, what love is not. So those people are going to play out their experience in the way that they are. And again, that's like, for example, Lisa being in the domestic abuse that she was in, she had to make a choice. Is she going to stay with a person who's physically abusive, or is she going to make the changes to move away from that? And so if you find yourself in a situation where there's darkness around you, or there's things happening that you don't want to be a part of, and you want to have a more love and light filled experience, then you have to figure out ways to find a new pathway for you rather than being stuck in the current situation that you're in. But ultimately, it all comes down to decisions. Everybody has to make their own decisions for themselves. And that, again, subconsciously, unconsciously being ruled by what is the soul contract that you came here on planet Earth to experience in this lifetime. So for, again, many times, this can be quite shocking for people to think that you would actually want to come here to experience a bad situation. Or even, they ask about like babies that are stillborn, like what was that about? And again, it was that soul's choice to experience that, as well as for the parent, both the mother and the father, to experience, that was a agreed upon soul level contract between the baby and the parents, to see what that all is about. We're going to share an experience Lisa had. Lisa was adopted as a baby. Many years ago, she was in Costa Rica and was having a meditation, and she witnessed where her adopted mother, her birth mother, and she all sat together and made arrangements about who was going to do what in this lifetime, how her adopted mother wanted to experience what it was like not to be able to conceive a child within her own body, which was so difficult for her. And yet she's had many babies in other lifetimes. So in this lifetime, she chose to experience what it would be like to not have a baby. And then her birth mother wanted and agreed to find out what it was like to give birth to a baby and yet not raise this child, and how difficult, how could she still love when the child is not there? And then I was the one that raised my hand that said, okay, I'll be the baby that's given away and separated from the birth mother, but then raised by another mother. And then, that was my choice of experience in this lifetime. And it was just such a beautiful experience for Lisa to be able to witness this soul contract that was agreed upon before her arrival here on planet Earth. And how now her birth mother also had agreed in that lifetime that she would be reunited with me, as my adopted mother would also agree that she would pass away before, so that Lisa and her birth mother could have this reunion. So it's just been a very fascinating expression and experience of being a human. And yet again, there's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. It's just a different experience of what love is and what love is not.
That's so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for
You're welcome.
this time and for giving us all these answers. I'm sure that will be helpful to so many people. And hopefully we can talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Hmm. Whew. Wow.
Wow, that was so beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've never done a long channel like that on an interview before. So thank you. I feel very, very privileged to have had you ask those questions and for the channel to come through. So I don't know, just beautiful.
We feel very privileged to see that. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's our first time having a channeler, like channeling our channelers. So this is awesome. This is
That's great.
really good. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Yeah. I felt so expansive as I was bringing it through. Again, I've done it on stage, but never on a, so, so potent here. So thank you again. Wonderful questions.
But thank you so much, Lisa, for being with us today. Hopefully you can come back, and
Yes.
we definitely will have more question for the life and love. Because there's so many things going to happen. It's already happening, and I know I want to have more questions about that, but I was like, okay, let's not do it too much this time, because I know this it's a lot of work to do it channeling. I feel like it's energetically. So especially the next time, probably we'll have a couple more questions about 2026.
Good.
And then
I
you
love
know,
it. Well, and I love that you both are, using the translation. So this goes into Spanish. I'm so grateful that this message can be shared in another language. I mean, that to me is just wonderful and so expansive. So thank you both for doing this beautiful work that you're doing.
Thank you, Lisa.
and what is your website, Lisa? We're going to put that downstairs. Downstairs. Not only for people can contact you if they want a session with you, because I know that you do intuitive, and then you also coach, and you
Yes.
also guide, and you also can talk to their probably the person who already left Earth.
Yes.
But they can wanted to contact them, they can contact you. What is your website? But we're also going to put it down the link.
Wonderful. Yeah. So my website is beingofloveandlight.com. And then they can sign up there. We have free 30-minute sessions just to have a conversation with people. Sometimes they just want to have a little taste of the one-on-one, and then I share if you want to do a reading with me after that. Yeah, so that's the best way to get a hold of me. I've been kind of stepping back from social media a little bit, so I am there. All the different ones. It's go to Lisa Jones, GOTO, Lisa Jones. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and I just joined Substack, and that's just getting started. But yeah, so. But again, stepping back a little bit from that, it's been very healing for me to step away from social media. I love doing interviews and YouTube, but the scrolling has gotten me nowhere. So thank you.
Diana.
No, I just want to say thank you for being you. Really, really a beautiful experience today. Yeah, many important messages that we are receiving, and we are so happy to share that with the people who are speaking in Spanish, as you said, and with the energy of your voice. So grateful to have you here.
Thank
Thank
you so much.
you. Have a good hugs to
Yeah. Hugs, hugs.
Aloha.